we're finishing the week of Hod with the Sfira of Malchut Shebehod. And imagine a scene that we have a king, and suddenly the king comes out with a public announcement that he made a sin and he confesses for the sin. Can you imagine now a president or a prime minister coming and saying, "My dear nation, I have sinned"? That will never happen. But imagine, hypothetically, we have a king and he comes and admits a sin. Would you think that he's an amazing leader, or would you say, he sinned? Then our sages say, Ashrei Hador, happy is the nation, shehamelech oseh tshuva, when the king does tshuva. Happy is the generation that you have a leader that is able to admit, I did a mistake, but I'm doing tshuva. There is a verse in the book of Vayikra, in Parashat Vayikra, but in the book of Vayikra, chapter 4, it says, Asher nasi yechta, when a leader will sin. A leader also sins. You know, David HaMelech sinned, Moshe Rabbeinu sinned, all the leaders sinned, by the way. If you have a leader that doesn't sin, then what kind of a leader is that? That's where you see big difference in the history of Jews, that all our leaders are human. They all sin, they all do problems. If you're looking in other faiths, the leader is holy and nothing, he never does anything wrong. And look, in our leaders, they all made mistakes, big mistakes. But the good leaders, they know how to admit. David HaMelech admitted, many others admitted, I did a mistake. So our sages say, taking the verse from the book of Vayikra, and you can find it in chapter 4, and it says, Asher nasi yechta, when a leader will sin. So on that, our sages say, happy is the generation that they have a leader that in our terminology is man enough to say, I've sinned, I made a mistake, but I'm doing tshuva. So admitting, this is again going back to the hoda'ah, the hod is vidui, I admit, but I admit in front of other people. And when a person does that, you know what it does to the person? It adds to the person what's called hod vehadar. We explained that already a few classes ago, this majestic beauty. Hod vehadar, we sing that in Eshet Chayil. Hod vehadar levusha, she's dressed with glory and majestic beauty. Very few people that know how to admit publicly to the mistake that they did. People don't understand that sometimes with one word they will destroy a person, and the person, that's it, the person is kaput. And if they would come out to the public and say, listen, I made a mistake, I made a wrong observation, or I said something wrong, can you imagine how you reverse the situation? Not too long ago somebody came, I give him credit because he came, because most don't come. But he came, and he came to my wife and me, and he says, listen, I want to apologize because I spoke Lashon Hara about you both. So my wife is like a mush, oh no, I forgive you right away. And he looked at me and he was like, do you forgive me? I said, no, I don't forgive you. He says, but I made an effort, I came, I'm sorry. I said, you know when I'll forgive you? Go and announce it publicly. Let's see you going out now and put it on Facebook or whatever you want. Announce publicly that you are apologizing because you slandered my name. Then I'll forgive you. So, and I do give him some credit because the 99% don't come and admit. And he at least had a little bit of courage to come and say, I'm sorry, it was just the three of us. I'm sorry, talk Lashon Hara about you both. So I said, good, I'm happy that you're acknowledging it. Now go and say it publicly. Do you think he did it? Did you hear anybody saying something publicly? So obviously he didn't. So imagine going publicly and saying, I have sinned. I did a mistake. I admit, I want to do tshuva, but I have to go publicly to do that. That's how you do it. If a person wants to be forgiven for Lashon Hara, this is what people don't understand. We're actually going to start a whole course of Lashon Hara because many people here ask me, can you start teaching about Hilchot Lashon Hara? So we're going to take it serious, and we're going to do, the course will be broken into two segments, the halacha in it and the mystical part in it. If you hear what the Zohar has to say about Lashon Hara and books of Kabbalah, you will stitch your lips together and won't even dare to talk anything. But nevertheless, the vidui, the admitting, is when it goes out in the public. I don't know if you noticed, but we admit 3 times a day. In Shacharit Mincha and Kiryat Shema Lamita. Shamnu Bagadnu, you know, we bang on the heart. This is vidui, this is when I admit. But the real admitting is when it's publicly. Where do you see a perfect example? Look at 2 leaders in our nation, King David and King Shaul. Shaul HaMelech and David HaMelech. When the prophet Shmuel came to prove Shaul, what did Shaul do? Listen, and then. He was trying to justify himself. It was a hot day. It was an idea with the circumstances. He didn't admit. He was trying to get out of it. David HaMelech said right away, Chatati L'Shem. That's it. Didn't try to justify his behavior. He admitted, you're right. You caught me. I did a sin. And he says, 2 words, Chatati L'Shem. I made a sin in front of Hashem. Shaul tried to justify his behavior. That's why the kingdom, the kingship, the rulership was taken from Shaul. You can't be a king. David HaMelech admitted, okay, so you'll be the king. Where does David HaMelech get it? Go all the way back into the story of Torah with Yehuda. Yehuda made a great sin with Tamar, but he admitted. You know that Yehuda could have thrown her into the furnace and keep it quiet. I'm sure you know the story. Yehuda goes and gets Tamar pregnant, and she's supposed to be the daughter-in-law, and he doesn't know it's him, and right away they sentence her to death. How did you get pregnant? You've been with a man? So they sentenced her to death. And the day of the execution, she sends him a little letter with a little package with what he left by her. And he says, oh my God, it was me. I'm the one. I was with her. Now what would you think any normal person will do? Go to his home, close the door, put the blinds down, sit there for 2 hours, wait for the execution to take place. She's going now out of this world with the secret. Nobody will ever know. But instead of that, a great leader comes out and says, don't kill her. It was me. I was with her. Can you imagine the leader coming out and saying, I'm the one who got her pregnant? My daughter-in-law? That's a leader that comes and says, I admit. So Yehuda was the one who admitted. So David comes from Shevet Yehuda. David is from the lineage of Yehuda. So David also, I admit. I made a mistake. This is Malchut Shebehod. This is the Hod, is the admitting, but Malchut is when the king admits. Now I spoke about many times that we are all a king or a queen in my little domain. This is what's called a Melech Bezeir Anpin. I'm a king over my home. I'm a king in my congregation, whatever it is. I'm not king with a crown, but I'm a little king. Hod, we explained a couple times that is not only this majestic beauty, rather it's also a light and a shine, something that is very beautiful. And this is a result of when I admit. When I admit, then I have this beautiful glory, light shining around me. This is the power of Hoda'ah. Sometimes you see people and you're like, wow, that person is like glowing with light. Yeah, because he knows how to admit when he makes a mistake. We all make mistakes, by the way. Take the biggest rabbi in the world, the greatest tzaddik, they all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I'm sure you heard the term from our sages, Sheva tzaddik yipol v'kama. Even a tzaddik falls 7 times. So everybody makes mistakes. But you know who's the great one? Is the one who admits it. And you admit it. So the real malchut, the real being a leader in a kingship, is that you know how to admit. And you don't have to be King David. You don't have to be a king over the entire world. You have to be a king in your own domain, is to know how to admit, and when you made a mistake. Now, most people, they don't like to admit. You know why? Because I'm exposing my weakness. If I will come now and admit to you that I did something, then I'm showing you now right where I'm weak. I don't want to show you where I'm weak. I want to show you that I'm strong. People think that if I show you my weakness, that I will be even more weaker. It's the complete opposite. If I'm able to show other people that where I'm weak, that's not showing weakness. It's just being able to admit. So most people don't want to admit. Why? Because I'm telling you I did something wrong. I'm showing you my bad side, my weakness, and I don't want to do that. But nevertheless, this is the wrong way of doing it. The right way is to know how to admit when you did something wrong. I told you already, specifically with Lashon Hara. People, if they would understand how bad Lashon Hara is, they would literally stitch their lips and will never talk ever in their life. Everybody fails in Lashon Hara. Now, how do you fix Lashon Hara? You know, just imagine, can you, for this sin, you stole, okay, give it back. Very simple. You did this sin, fix it. How do you fix Lashon Hara? So we'll do in the course, because it's not easy to fix Lashon Hara. But one of the greatest ways, go and announce publicly, I have spoken Lashon Hara against this person. I apologize publicly to this person. Have you ever seen somebody do that? Right? I saw very few people standing up and saying, I have to apologize publicly, I slandered this person's name. It wasn't true what I said. So nobody likes to admit because I'm exposing my weakness. But that's the complete opposite. And Malchut Shebehod is that saying, yeah, I have to admit, I did something wrong. Can you imagine a person coming and telling you, I'm asking you forgiveness, I spoke Lashon Hara about you. Ooh. How many times did it happen to you in the last 60 years? 0, right? So practically saying, I have to constantly put myself under a magnifying glass. Am I admitting or am I not admitting? In Hebrew, it's called lehakrish, to deny. So I have to constantly weigh myself, and I'm on the side that I constantly admit, or I'm living in some type of denial. If I can find myself that I'm living in denial, that's not good. Because at some point, the veil of deception is removed. And then what? That's what people don't understand. At some point, this is called Judgment Day, or you can call it in many other days, the Day of Truth. One day you are standing in a situation where everything is exposed. So wouldn't you want to come to that day a little bit more prepared? Can you imagine the shame standing in the heavenly court in front of everybody, and they're not showing you one angle, they're showing you 20 cameras from all around. How, what, when, who, when, what was going on in your mind. People don't understand that at some point the truth comes out, now deal with the truth. So some people choose to admit right away, I'm sorry, I said the wrong thing, I cheated, whatever, and some people live in denial. The practical part that we want to summarize this entire week of Hod, specifically Malchut Shebehod, is, do I live in denial or do I admit? If I live in denial, in Hebrew we say, L'sheker en raglayim. A lie doesn't have legs. If you're looking at the word lie in Hebrew, it's the middle letter is kuf, and the kuf has one leg. It doesn't have two legs. Two legs, it walks away. One leg stands in one spot. You can't run away from the reality. So one needs to choose, do I admit, even if I'm a great king, even if I'm a great person, the greater the person when the person admits, the greater he becomes. Just imagine how our great leaders, when they came and admit, that's what made them so great. Maybe at that moment they looked like a fool, but I can guarantee to you when the person comes out to the open and admits, that's when he gains the most respect. So practically saying, because we want to conclude the week, you have to constantly psychoanalyze your behavior, not in an OCD way, in a healthy way. Am I admitting in this situation, or am I in denial and I'm pulling back? And it can be something that's very, very simple, and it starts with the simple and small things. You have to be true to yourself and to say to yourself, am I now admitting in this situation, or am I no, it will be forgotten. People think that if you brush something off under the rug, it will somehow disappear. They don't understand that just at some point you pick up the rug, there's going to be a lot of dirt there. So you want to get rid of it, not to hide it. So important is to admit and not to deny. When a person lives too much in denial, then at some point it's going to be thrown into their face. Now when you have a lot to deal with, it's going to be much, much harder. To admit on one thing, it's much easier to admit on 10 things. So it's a snowball. You know how to stop it right away, then okay, it might be not so comfortable right now to say the truth, but later on it will be 10 times worse. And the way it works in this universe, that the more you deny, the more you brush under the rug, it will come at the most inappropriate, the worst moment. That's when it's going to come up. So not good to brush things under the table. Best to be honest, straight to the face, no nonsense, no games, no pretending. You have to be honest with yourself. Don't expect it from others, but at least yourself. I try to at least be the most honest with myself and other people. I don't want to come off and that I'm withholding information. Sometimes my wife tells me, you're very cold, you're very straight out, you say things, of course, why would I want to pretend to you? Why would I want to pretend? Just yesterday we had this conversation and I told her, I can't be fake with people. If I'm upset or if I'm whatever it is, I'm not gonna stop. Hi, how are you? That's not me. You get straight. You get this is what you get. You get the truth. There's no games around. There's no something left behind. And you know what? That's the best thing ever. I don't have to pretend to anybody. I sleep quietly because I don't lie. I don't cheat, and I don't cover things up, and I don't pretend. This is what you get. And if I have something to say, I'll say it to your face. I'm not going to go and start talking around the town. You're saying this and that. I'll straight to you. So the point is that you have to take that practically into your life and constantly, in every situation, make a stop and say, am I admitting or am I living in denial? The more you live in denial, the more it will be harder to get out of this knot. The analogy, how I see it, if you have one knot in your shoelace, it's very easy to take it out. When you have like 70 knots, now it will take you 3 hours to start somehow get the knot out. You ever happen to you? Did you have like a ball full of knots? Who needs this headache? Get the knot out when it's one knot, and it's easy and quick. Yeah, it's not so fun, but when it gets too much tangled, then it's a headache and a half to get it. So Malchut Shebehod is, you have to take charge, you have to take action over the mistake that you did, and you admit. And everybody, the great ones, not everybody unfortunately, but the great ones always admit. So we're going to conclude the week of Hod that it's not only thanking, it's also admitting when I'm wrong. And don't worry, it doesn't mean that you're less of who you are. When people come to admit to me certain things, I see them in a much higher level. The individual that had the courage to come and tell me and my wife that he slandered our name, I did give him a lot of respect. It is he came. Maybe he didn't take it to the next level. Most people don't. So don't think that somebody would look at you less when you admit to your faults or for your weakness. The right person will see you all. That's a much, much greater level. So, and this is equivalent to the idea of a Baal Tshuva. A Baal Tshuva is a person who knows how to admit, I did something wrong. Tzaddik doesn't need to, but a Baal Tshuva knows how to admit. Zad Hashem should have always the koach to be able to be truthful and to admit to the things that we do. Our tshuva process will be much more successful in this world.